Hey guys, tonight we step straight into the chaotic heart of the Byzantine Empire in the mid-11th century, where a civil war is about to tear provinces apart and drag the proud city of Thebes into disaster. You're right in the middle of it. Greece, year 1040, heat shimmering over the Boeotian plain, and the streets buzzing with rumours that Constantinople is cracking from the inside out. You can smell the sea breeze from the Gulf of Corinth, mixing with the dusty scent of harvest fields. Market stalls rattle. Silk merchants whisper nervously behind half-closed doors, and as you walk through Thebes, you feel what everyone feels. Tension, humming quietly like a string pulled too tight. Soldiers march past you, their armour clinking in the sunlight. Bureaucrats hurry between villas with sealed letters. Even the church bells seem unsure, ringing with a hollow hesitation. You probably won't survive this, your mind warns as thunder rolls in the distance. Not from the sky, but from an approaching army marching somewhere out of sight. Before we dive into Thebes' fall, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. Tonight's story is deep, dark, and political, perfect for the night owls. Now close your eyes for a second. Imagine marble streets lit by torches, generals plotting in shadowed halls, and an empire that feels strong on the outside but is crumbling from the core. Let's walk forward, quietly, because every step you take here pulls you deeper into the civil war that will decide whether provinces like Thebes rise or fall. And trust me, the empire is about to shake. You move closer to the heart of power, where old rivalries, deadly ambitions, and a city full of silk and wealth are about to collide. You move deeper into the city of Thebes as the year 1040 unfolds, and the tension only sharpens. Thebes isn't just another Byzantine provincial town. It's one of the empire's brightest jewels in Greece, the administrative heart of the Theban theme, a region famous for its wealth, fertile lands, and bustling trade routes. You can feel that power in the way people walk here, heads held high, robes finely woven, merchants talking loudly as if Constantinople itself depends on them. And in a way, it does. Thebes has become the heavyweight of central Greece. Its grain feeds armies. Its markets attract traders from Italy, Anatolia, the Balkans. Its villas and workshops hum with activity. And looming over all of that is an elite class that knows its worth. These aren't humble provincial folks. They're confident landowners, silk merchants, wealthy guild leaders, and minor nobles who've prospered while the empire's politics twist and churn far to the east. As you wander through the agora, you can hear gossip everywhere. Constantine IX doesn't trust the generals. The empire's treasury is running dry. They say the Duca's family is stirring trouble. Every whisper feels like a clue, because in Byzantium, civil war never starts with a sword. It starts with murmurs. Thebes has always had a complicated place in the empire. It's rich. Too rich for Constantinople's liking. Emperors know that prosperous themes, provinces, can grow ambitious. Wealth brings independence. Independence brings trouble. So the capital watches Thebes closely, like a nervous parent watching a rebellious teenager. And Thebes knows it. You can feel the pride as you pass the workshops, especially the silk workshops, the legendary heart of Theban industry. Even now, skilled women and men bend over intricate looms, spinning the kind of silk that emperors wear and foreign ambassadors envy. The sound of the looms is rhythmic, hypnotic, almost sacred. It's the heartbeat of the city. In those workshops, dyed threads drip brilliant colours, deep purples, indigos, golds, while spinners mutter prayers for protection, because they know war is bad for business. Armies mean taxes, taxes mean suffering, and suffering means someone, somewhere, will try to change the order of things. The Theban elites gather in shaded courtyards, reclining on cushions, sipping wine, debating politics with voices that sound far too comfortable. They're not powerless pawns in this civil war. They're stakeholders. Their wealth gives them influence. Their influence gives them danger. If they choose the wrong side in the coming conflict, their entire world will go up in flames. As you turn past the old Roman walls, you notice soldiers drilling in the courtyard. The local militia, not professional troops, but farmers and craftsmen in armour made by cousins and neighbours. Their movements are clumsy, but their determination is solid. They've been called up because Constantinople is nervous. The emperor needs loyalty, and loyalty starts in the provinces. But loyalty is complicated. Thebes has its own interests, its own grudges, its own ambitions, and it's starting to look east toward the powerful generals rising in rebellion and wondering whether the empire's centre is still worthy of obedience. You smell the bread ovens firing as dusk settles. You hear merchants counting coins. You see children running through the workshops with scraps of bright silk tied around their waists like superhero capes. Life goes on, as it always does, even when the sky is darkening. But beneath that normal rhythm, beneath the chanting in the churches and the clatter of tools, you sense a question hanging over every home in Thebes. If the empire fractures, which side will we choose? Because when Thebes chooses, it will not be a quiet decision. It will be loud, it will be dangerous, and it will reshape the fate of Greece. By the time night settles over the rooftops, you realise something chilling. Thebes isn't just a bystander in this civil war. It's becoming a player, and players don't get to sit safely on the sidelines when the empire burns. The city's wealth, pride, and power make it too important to ignore, too tempting for rebels to court, and too threatening for Constantinople to trust. You hear a final whisper as torches flicker on the walls. War is coming, and Thebes will not escape it. You wake the next morning to the sound of looms striking in rhythmic patterns, the heartbeat of Thebes. But today, the rhythm feels different. It's faster, sharper, almost nervous. As you walk toward the Silk Quarter, the famous Serikarioi district, the air thickens with the smell of dye vats and boiling mulberry leaves. Workers move quickly between workshops, carrying bundles of shimmering thread in colours so rich they seem unreal: imperial purple, Byzantine blue, sunlit gold. This isn't just any industry. This silk is the pride of Thebes, the secret jewel of Byzantine craftsmanship. Constantinople depends on it for diplomatic gifts, imperial robes, court ceremonies, all the things that make the empire look powerful even when its foundation is cracking. And here, among the narrow alleys and smoky workshops, you can feel that pride buzzing like electricity. The Theban silk guilds are no ordinary guilds. They are rich, organised, fiercely protective of their secrets, and most dangerously, they are politically influential. As you wander deeper, you see why these workshops employ hundreds. Women who spin, men who weave, children who carry bundles of raw silk from one station to another. Every loom is a living testimony to skill passed down through generations. Even emperors know better than to anger the silk workers of Thebes. You can't win diplomacy when the diplomats are naked. But today, something is off. Workers glance over their shoulders more than usual. A guildmaster steps outside to whisper with a messenger, his face tight with worry. Two militia officers walk through the alley slowly, as if searching for someone or waiting for something to break. Word travels quickly in a place like this, and whispers cling to the steam rising from the dye vats. Maniax is marching. They say the Ducas loyalists want us silenced. Constantinople will blame us for choosing wrong. The civil war brewing out east is squeezing the silk guilds like a vice. On one side stands the Ducas faction, backed by old aristocratic families close to the emperor. They want to centralize power, pull wealth back to the capital, and remind provinces like Thebes that loyalty comes before profit. Constantinople has always been jealous of Thebes' success, especially its silk monopoly. On the other side stands General George Maniax, the most brilliant and dangerous military commander in the empire. A man who won battles the emperor only dreamed of, a man too popular for Constantinople's comfort. A man now pushed to rebellion by politics, jealousy, and insults whispered in the wrong ears. Here in Thebes, the silk guilds are caught between a fading emperor and a rising rebel. And they know something no one else admits out loud. Whoever controls the silk controls the wealth. Whoever controls the wealth controls the province. As you follow the sound of looms into a wider courtyard, you find a group of guild leaders gathered around an open table. They look tense, their robes too ornate for comfort, their faces pale in the morning sun. On the table lie maps of Greece, lists of suppliers, secret agreements, and letters written in elegant minuscule script. You linger at the edge of the crowd, pretending to examine a bolt of fabric. Their voices are low, urgent. "We cannot trust the Dukai," one says. "They will tax us to death." "And Maniakes," another counters. "He is a soldier. Soldiers take what they want." A third voice, older and steadier. "Maniacs needs allies. The Emperor needs obedience. I'd rather support the man who needs us than the man who fears us." There it is, the dilemma that will shape Thebes' fate. The silk guilds have wealth, influence, connections, and control over thousands of workers. If they support Maniakes, the city will follow. If they support Constantinople, Maniakes will treat Thebes as a traitor. Either choice is dangerous. Both choices lead to blood. You step closer to the loom beside you and run your fingers across a newly woven bolt of fabric. It's soft, impossibly light, shimmering under the sun. This fabric might end up as an imperial robe, or burned in the streets when armies descend. A young spinner approaches, wiping sweat from her brow. "Choose a colour," she says jokingly, unaware of the politics swirling around her. "Everyone's buying blue today. They say it's lucky in times like these." You smile weakly. Lucky isn't the word you'd choose. As you leave the district, the sound of the looms follows you like echoing footsteps. The silk quarter is beautiful, yes, but it's also a powder keg. One wrong decision, one whisper in the wrong ear, and the Empire's most precious industry will collapse into flames, and you can't shake the thought forming quietly in your mind. Cities don't fall because of armies. They fall because of choices. Thebes is choosing, thread by thread, loom by loom, and the choice it makes will drag it into the heart of the civil war, whether it wants to be there or not. As the sun sets, the guild banners flutter overhead in the warm breeze, their colours vibrant against the darkening sky. Those banners won't be flying much longer, because when the silk stops weaving, the sword starts swinging. You wake the next day to shouting in the agora, sharper, angrier than before. Soldiers push through the crowds, messengers sprint toward the governor's residence, and the whole city buzzes with rumours that feel like sparks on dry grass. The civil war you've been sensing like distant thunder is now rumbling directly over Thebes. Two names dominate every conversation, Ducas and Maniacs. Two men. Two visions of Byzantium, and Thebes is standing right between them. The first, Constantine Ducas and his aristocratic family, controls the capital. The Ducai are scholars, bureaucrats, old aristocrats who believe the empire should be ruled from the pen and the purse, not the sword. They whisper in the emperor's ear, shape policies, appoint governors, and decide which provinces get support and which get squeezed. Thebes, rich as it is, has been squeezed more than most. The second, George Maniacs, is pure iron, the empire's greatest general. A giant of a man feared by Arabs, Normans, even his own troops. He won Sicily for Byzantium, shook half the Mediterranean, and made Constantinople jealous. Instead of rewarding him, the court insulted him, stripped his command, and replaced him with weaker men. The empire's finest blade tossed aside because courtiers felt threatened. Now Maniacs is marching, angry, betrayed, and determined to take what he believes is rightfully his, and Thebes is watching both sides with cold calculation. By midday, the city's leaders meet again behind the governor's villa. You slip toward the edge of the gathering, hidden beneath an olive tree. The governor himself, stern-faced, sweating beneath layers of embroidered silk, stands before the crowd of nobles and guildmasters. Maniakes has risen in rebellion, he announces. He has declared the emperor illegitimate. His army grows. He marches north. Whispers spread like wind in dry leaves. Some faces brighten, others darken. A silk guildmaster mutters, "Good. Someone needs to teach Constantinople a lesson." A landowner snaps back, "Fool, if the Ducai win, they'll burn this city to punish us." The governor raises a hand for silence. The emperor demands Thebes' loyalty. The word demands hangs heavy in the air. Loyalty isn't free. It's never free in Byzantium. Thebes knows the rules of imperial politics well. If you support the losing side, you lose everything. If you support the winning side too late, you lose everything. If you hesitate, Someone else will make the decision for you. You can feel it in the tension gripping the courtyard. This isn't just politics, it's survival. One of the militia captains speaks up, his armour dusty from morning drills. If Maniacs wins and we remained loyal to Constantine, we will be crushed. And if we side with Maniacs, the governor snaps, and he fails, Constantinople will raise this city. The Ducai have long hated Thebes' independence. There it is, the truth everyone knows, but fears to say aloud. Thebes has grown too wealthy, too powerful, too confident. The capital resents it. Thebes knows it. And now, civil war is giving Constantinople the excuse it never had. Punish Thebes in the name of loyalty. A young guild heir steps forward. Bold, reckless, exactly the kind of man silk money produces. The emperor bleeds our coffers. Drymaniacs is a soldier. Soldiers honour strength. Support him, and he will reward us. An older noble shakes his head. Rebels always promise rewards. They usually die before they can deliver them. The argument spirals. Taxes, autonomy, imperial arrogance, Maniaki's victories, and suddenly it becomes clear. Thebes is divided in two. The merchants and guilds favour Maniacs. The old aristocrats fear rebellion. But just as voices start rising, a messenger bursts into the courtyard gasping for breath. He collapses to one knee. News from the north. Menex has defeated the imperial vanguard in Thrace. His army grows by the day. The courtyard goes silent. A victory this early? That changes everything. You see it in their eyes. The flicker of calculation, the shift in posture. People in Thebes don't pledge loyalty by prayer. They pledge by probability. And right now, Maniakes looks frighteningly probable. The governor dismisses the council, trembling. Decisions delayed are decisions made in secret. You know he'll spend the night sending letters to Constantinople, begging for reinforcements, protection, anything. But as you walk back toward the agora, the mood of the city has changed. The workers talk openly now. The silk guild banners fly higher. Men sharpen spears in doorways. Women whisper of new alliances and new fortunes. Thebes, cautious for weeks, is now leaning, ever so slightly, toward revolt, toward Maniacs, toward danger. As the sun sets over the distant mountains, the first war drum sounds in the north. You realize with a chill, Thebes isn't watching the civil war anymore. It's entering it, and there's no turning back. You feel the shift before you hear it. The city of Thebes awakening not with the calm rhythm of trade and silkwork, but with the sharp pulse of rebellion. News spreads before sunrise. George Maniakes has declared himself emperor, not in whispers now, but openly, loudly, boldly. His banners rise in the west, his army grows with every passing hour, and couriers report that he's sweeping through the Balkans like a storm that no one can stop. For the people of Thebes, this is no longer distant theatre. It's an invitation, a temptation, a test. By mid-morning, the agora is overflowing with tension. Merchants abandon their stalls. Nobles gather in closed groups. The militia drills with a seriousness you've never seen before. The silk guilds, the most powerful bloc in the city, have begun speaking openly in favour of Maniacs. And in the alleyways and wine shops, people say what they once feared to whisper: the emperor is weak. The Ducai have betrayed the army. Maniacs will win, he must. Up until now, Thebes' flirtation with rebellion was theoretical, but Maniac's latest victories change everything. He crushes an imperial force near Thessaloniki. A second loyalist commander defects, and word spreads that the people of Epirus and Macedonia have opened their gates to him without a fight. So when you make your way to the governor's palace, you already know what to expect. A city government in free fall. Inside, chaos rules. Officials argue loudly in the marble hall, voices echoing like clashing shields. The governor, pale and sweating, slams his hand on a table covered in scrolls and maps. Thebes will remain loyal, he insists, but no one believes him. Not even his own guards. Half of them avoid his eyes. A nobleman shouts back, "Loyalty to a dying emperor is not loyalty, it's suicide." The governor clenches his jaw. The Ducai will crush the rebellion. They always have. But everyone in the room knows this time is different. The Ducas faction is fractured, the emperor is aging, Constantinople is scrambling, and Maniakes is what the empire hasn't seen in decades. A commander loved by his troops, feared by his enemies, and too angry to stop. Thebes sees an opportunity in that anger. An opportunity and a danger. Outside, the guildmasters of the Silk Quarter meet in their own private council. You slip close enough to hear through the open windows. Their tone is calmer, colder, far more decisive than the nobles. These men and women think not in oaths, but in profit and survival. If Maniax wins, one guildmaster says, we will be rewarded. And if he loses, another asks. The eldest among them answers quietly, then Thebes will be punished, regardless of what we choose. The emperor already resents us. Better to risk everything for a chance at more. There it is, pure Theban pragmatism. Silk doesn't care who sits on the throne, but Silk must protect itself. You walk through the city streets as afternoon shadows grow longer, and you see preparations underway. Not for defence, not yet, but for alignment. A subtle but unmistakable shift. Banners of Thebes begin to appear beside the gates, bright cloth embroidered with symbols of local identity, not the imperial double-headed eagle. The militia's drills intensify, their spears lined in careful rows. Even the churches are divided. Some priests pray for the emperor's safety, others hint that God supports Maniac's righteous fury. You pause at a fountain as a group of young men boast loudly about joining Maniac's army. He'll march through here any day, they say. We should meet him as allies, not enemies. But not everyone is swept up in the excitement. In the poorer quarters, fear hangs like smoke. Farmers whisper that rebellion brings taxes, forced conscription, and burning fields. Old women mutter that civil wars leave nothing but graves. In the Jewish and Armenian districts, merchants fear looting from both sides. Imperial suspicion if they support Maniacs, rebel suspicion if they don't. Civil war doesn't choose its victims, it makes them. As the sun dips low, the governor of Thebes sends out an urgent proclamation. All citizens must remain loyal to Constantinople. It is met with laughter. Some tear the notice from the walls, others smear it with mud. A few quietly take it to their homes, not out of loyalty but out of fear of being caught supporting the wrong side later. But the moment everything changes is twilight, when another messenger arrives. He rides into the city half collapsed. His horse lathered with foam, guards rush to him. A crowd gathers, and with a voice barely above a whisper he delivers the news. Maniakes is marching south. He will reach Greece within days. A shockwave passes through the square. For weeks, Thebes watched from afar. For days, Thebes debated which side to choose. But now the war is at its doorstep. You see the realization fall over the city like a shadow. If Maniax passes through Thebes, the city must choose. Open its gates or close them. Open them, and Thebes becomes a rebel stronghold. Close them, and Thebes becomes a battlefield. There is no safe path now. Only choices. Dangerous choices. Night settles over Thebes, thick and humming with tension. Torches flicker along the walls, militia captains whisper to their lieutenants. Silk workers hurry home with shutters fastened tight. And you stand in the central square, feeling the weight of a city on the edge. Thebes has taken its first step toward rebellion, and rebellion never walks backward. The next morning breaks with a strange, heavy quiet over Thebes, like the silence before a storm touches ground. Birds aren't singing, merchants aren't shouting, even the looms in the Silk Quarter seem slower, as if the workers are listening for something. Because today the city knows it must choose, not tomorrow, not next week, today. And the choice is this: stand with Emperor Constantine and the Ducas faction, or throw in their lot with George Maniax, the rebel general marching south. By mid-morning, the question is tearing the city in two. The governor calls an emergency assembly in the main square. Everyone who matters comes: guildmasters, landowners, clergy, militia captains. You push through the crowd and find a place near a worn marble column. The humidity presses against your skin as the governor steps forward, sweating not from the heat, but from fear. He raises a trembling hand. Thebes must remain loyal to the emperor. The Ducas family will not tolerate rebellion. His voice shakes. No one respects him. No one fears him. And in Byzantium, a leader who inspires neither is already half overthrown. Before he can continue, a guildmaster interrupts. Bold, confident, wearing a cloak dyed in Theban purple. The Ducai tax us into the dirt and provide nothing in return. We bleed while Constantinople fattens itself. Cheers erupt from the crowd. The governor tries to shout them down, but his voice is drowned out by the rising tide of Theban pride. A priest steps forward next, robes fluttering in the warm wind. Maniakes is a murderer, he warns, a rebel, a blasphemer. If we join him, God will punish Thebes. But the people have heard enough sermons. A militia captain, broad-shouldered, scarred from an old border skirmish, pushes to the front. God helps those who protect themselves, he says, and Constantinople cannot protect us. Maniakes can. This time the cheers are louder. The governor tries again, raising a scroll sealed with imperial wax. This is an order signed by the emperor himself. Thebes must send 300 men to reinforce the loyalist army in Larissa. The crowd erupts in anger. 300? When autumn harvests are coming. When Maniakes' army is days away. It's suicide. Even the nobles murmur disapproval. The governor realizes he is losing control, and fast. But what happens next isn't sparked by him. It's sparked by a single shout from the back of the crowd, from a silk dyer with purple-stained hands. Maniacs will protect our workshops, the emperor will seize them. It's a truth everyone knows. If Thebes sides with Constantine and he wins, the Ducas family will punish the city for hesitating. If Thebes sides with Constantine and he loses, Maniacs will punish them worse. Fear and logic collide, and logic wins. Thebes must choose the man who needs them more, and that man is George Maniacs. The shift is visible. Crowd dividing. Loyalty is crystallizing. The governor's supporters shrinking into a tight knot surrounded by thousands of angry citizens. The guildmasters speak in unison. Thebes must open its gates to Maniakes. The militia captains raise their spears and chant the rebel general's name. The governor's face drains of colour. He calls desperately to his guards, but half of them have already stepped away from him, their hands falling off their sword hilts. You can feel the energy rising, the city becoming a living force, a creature stirred awake by fear and ambition. Thebes is choosing. A noble steps forward, older, cautious, respected. His voice cuts through the shouting. If we support Maniacs, we must prepare the city, fortify the walls, hide our wealth, arm every man capable of lifting a spear. The Ducai will not forgive this. A cold truth, but accepted. Thebes is now a rebel stronghold. That afternoon, preparations begin with frantic urgency. The city gates are reinforced. More guards are posted on the walls. Bakers work non-stop to prepare supplies. Blacksmiths forge spearheads from broken ploughs. The silk guilds lock their warehouses and prepare for war. The city hums with purpose. Fearful purpose, but purpose nonetheless. As sunset paints the sky orange, a patrol of horsemen returns from the north. One of them rides his exhausted horse straight into the square and shouts a message that echoes across every rooftop. Maniakes is 2 days away. The crowd roars, not in fear, but in triumph. For better or worse, Thebes has chosen its side, and the empire watching from Constantinople will respond with fury. Tonight, the city doesn't sleep, neither do you, because you know the next step isn't alliance, it's retaliation. By dawn the next day, Thebes is a city transformed, not by victory, not yet, but by clarity. Thebes has declared, openly and defiantly, that it will stand with George Maniacs, the rebel general marching south like a thunderhead across the empire, and in Byzantium, clarity is dangerous. The streets buzz with an uneasy energy. Men sharpen spears in their doorways. Women patch tunics and bake hard bread for the coming days. Children run messages for guildmasters. Thebes hasn't seen this kind of purpose in years, not since Arab raids generations earlier. But those raids came from outside. What's coming now is far worse. It's the empire itself, preparing to crush a province daring to question the centre. By mid-morning, the first blow lands, A messenger arrives from the north gate, panting, pale. Imperial troops are moving through Phocis, loyal to the Dukai. They're coming this way. The crowd stiffens. Everyone knew retaliation would come, but not this fast. The Duca's faction is desperate to prove it still controls Greece. To stop Maniacs, they must stop his allies, and Thebes has just made itself the brightest target in the region. The governor, now effectively a powerless relic, tries to address the people from the balcony of his residence. His voice is swallowed by shouts from below. "Close the gates! Maniacs will protect us! The Emperor sends wolves!" You leave the boiling square and walk toward the ramparts. As you climb the old stairs, the scent of fresh-cut wood and hot iron fills the air. Militiamen work in frantic rhythm, reinforcing battlements, hammering spikes into defensive barriers, stacking stones to hurl down on attackers, filling cisterns in case of fire. The walls of Thebes are ancient, Roman bones holding Byzantine flesh, but they're not built for prolonged war. Worse still, the city has no imperial garrison. Only militia, guild levies, and a handful of landowners' private guards, but they have something else: resolve. "The Emperor left us for dead years ago," a militia captain mutters as he tightens his greaves. "If Constantinople wants our loyalty, they can come take it from the walls." You peer out over the countryside. Dust rises far off. Movement, too steady to be merchants. The imperial forces are coming, and they are not alone. Behind them, trail tax collectors, informants, men who carry lists of names, lists that include half the city. Civil war in Byzantium is never just a clash of armies. It's a purge. Back inside the city, the silk guilds hold one final emergency council before the fighting begins. You slip close enough to hear them speaking through the open shutters of a villa. Their voices are tense but unwavering. "We cannot hide our choice now," one says. "Maniacs must reach us before the Emperor's forces do." Another counters, "If Maniacs is delayed, if he loses even one battle, we will be destroyed." An older guild mistress shakes her head. "Then we prepare. We have wealth. We have men. We have walls. We will hold until he arrives." Wealth, men, walls, all necessary, not enough. As the sun climbs, the Ducas loyalists arrive at last. Imperial banners glint through the trees, gold and red, shimmering like a cruel dawn. Word spreads through the city faster than fire. Bells ring, doors slam, shields clatter into position. You rush back to the gates as the soldiers assemble. The Imperial commander, a stern-faced strategos with a voice loud enough to carry across the plain, calls out, "People of Thebes, stand down, surrender your city, and forgiveness will be granted to all except those who conspired with Maniakes." Except, a dangerous word in Byzantium. The militia captain beside you spits over the wall. "Forgiveness is a lie," he mutters. "They want our silk. They want our wealth. They want our freedom." Thebes answers loud and united. "No surrender." The strategos sighs, as if disappointed, and raises his hand. "Begin." Catapults roll forward. Archers form ranks. Drums thunder across the fields. Inside Thebes, fear tightens around your throat, but the people don't run. They grab stones, oil, spears, cracked shields, even kitchen knives. The first arrows arc through the sky, blackening the sun. Thebes has joined Maniacs. Now Thebes will pay for it, and Maniacs, still days away, may not move fast enough. The city braces, trembling but defiant, as the first blows strike its outer walls like a giant pounding at the gates. War has come, and Thebes is officially in it. The first imperial assault on Thebes doesn't begin with a roar. It begins with a drum roll deep and steady, echoing across the Boeotian plain like a heartbeat outside your chest. You stand atop the northern wall as the sound vibrates through the stone beneath your feet. The imperial strategos raises his banner. Catapults creak. Archers knock arrows. Thebes has chosen Maniacs, and now Constantinople has chosen punishment. The air hangs still for a moment, hot, tense, so quiet you swear you can hear the river miles away. Then the world snaps. Thunk! The first stone hurled from a trebuchet smashes into the outer farm, sending a plume of dust into the sky. Thunk, thunk. 2 more crash into the earth near the gate, shaking the walls with a warning. The Strategos isn't trying to breach yet. He's testing defences, measuring how fast Thebes responds, how steady its people stand and Thebes stands. Militia line the battlements shoulder to shoulder, shields up, knuckles white. Behind them, guildmasters clutch spears meant more for display than war silk workers carry buckets of water to douse fires. Kids scramble across the parapets, passing stones to the fighters. This is not a professional army. It's a city defending itself, and cities can be terrifying when cornered. A trumpet blares from the imperial lines. Arrows rise like a dark cloud, whistling toward the walls. Men duck, shields clatter, a few fall. Thebes grits its teeth. "Hold!" the militia captain roars, and they do. The imperial troops advance infantry with heavy shields, archers behind them, cavalry circling like wolves waiting for weakness. Their discipline is unnerving. This is the Ducas faction's best, men who believe rebels deserve no mercy. Below at the main gate, imperial sappers rush forward with axes and hooks. Oil is brought up. Torches are lit. They mean to set fire to the city's very front door, Thebes answers with fury. From the walls, defenders hurl stones, pots filled with sand to blind attackers, even boiling water scavenged from communal kitchens. You watch a pot shatter across enemy shields. Steam explodes outward, soldiers scream and the assault slows. Another wave comes, this time with ladders. They slam against the walls and the first imperial soldiers begin climbing. Their armour glints beneath the harsh sun. Their breath comes in snarls. A ladder hooks onto the battlement just a few feet from you. Cut it down, a guildmaster shouts. Militia slash at the ropes with curved knives, the ladder wobbles. An imperial soldier swings his sword toward your face. Just as the ladder flips backward, he disappears with a scream. You try not to look, but the Ducas Strategos is relentless. Every failed assault is followed by another. Thebes stands firm for now. By midday, fires burn along the western quarter. Flaming arrows rain down onto wooden roofs. Smoke rises behind you in long grey pillars. Women form bucket chains through the streets. Priests run back and forth with icons shouting encouragement. "God stands with us! Maniakes comes soon! Hold!" But the truth bites at the edges of your mind. Maniacs is not here yet, and the imperial troops outside are not retreating. You scan the horizon every few minutes, hoping for dust clouds that belong to rebel horsemen. Nothing. Just heat waves on the fields. Inside the city, the fear grows heavier than the smoke. At the Silk Quarter, the guildmasters argue bitterly. Some blame the governor for not surrendering earlier. Others accuse merchants of hoarding food. The militia shouts at civilians to stay away from the walls. Children cry in doorways as windows shatter under volleys of arrows. Still, Thebes refuses to break. Just after noon, an imperial ram slams into the gate. Boom! The sound shakes through your bones. Again. Boom! The hinges screech. The wood buckles. Again. Boom! A crack splits down the centre like a wound. Panic sparks across the defenders. Archers shoot wildly. Militia rush to brace the gate with beams, furniture, anything they can find. A silk merchant grabs a discarded spear and joins them, hands trembling. Thebes is holding by will alone now, not strength. One final strike and the gate might give, but then salvation. Not the kind you expected, not maniacs. From the eastern side of the city, a distant horn sounds. A high, sharp, trilling call. The defenders freeze. Imperial soldiers pause. Heads turn. Another horn. Closer. Louder. You rush to the eastern wall, and there, on the far ridge, you see riders cresting the hill. Their armour glints in the sun. Their banner snaps in the wind. It's not Maniak's banner, but it's a friend. A group of Maniak's aligned provincial cavalry from Attica. Only a few hundred, but enough to tilt the field. Thebes erupts with cheers. The Imperial Strategos curses, signalling his troops to pull back and reform. He can't risk being flanked. The first assault ends, not in victory, but in a stalemate. Thebes lives another day. Barely. Badly wounded, but alive. Night falls hard, the sky bruised purple. You stand on the ramparts, exhausted, watching Imperial campfires flicker across the plain. They look like stars fallen to earth, each one a threat. You know tomorrow will be worse. You know the Dukai won't stop until the city kneels. And maniacs. Where in God's name is maniacs? The night after the first assault drags on like a fever dream, long, restless and punctured by distant shouts from the imperial camp. Sleep is a luxury Thebes can't afford. Fires burn through the dark as citizens bucket water from wells, patch walls with timber, and gather stones for the next attack. Thebes has survived one day, but everyone knows the truth. The worst is coming. By dawn, smoke drifts over the city like a veil. You step onto the ramparts to find the militia already at their posts, faces gaunt, eyes ringed with exhaustion. Still, they stand. Every man, every guild apprentice, every old veteran who thought his fighting days were finished. They're all on the walls. Thebes is becoming a fortress, a desperate, makeshift fortress. And the heart of that fortress, the place where the city's fate will be decided, is the northern Silk Quarter. It sits right behind the main walls, packed with warehouses, drying racks, dye vats, and massive timber frame workshops that loom like temples. The quarter is wealthy, vital, and disastrously vulnerable. If the Imperial army breaches the northern defences, the Silk Quarter will be the first to fall, and if it falls, morale will break with it. So today the city throws everything it has at protecting it. As you weave through the alleyways, you see workers forming a barricade with wagons and dyed lumber. The air stinks of boiling mulberry leaves, wet fibres, and fear. Dye vats bubble like cauldrons. Raw silk hangs in shimmering sheets. Guildmasters pace like generals, issuing orders to workers who've never seen battle, but are suddenly defending their livelihoods with sharpened weaving tools and heavy beams. Thebes is not just building defences, it is armouring its soul. By late morning, the Imperial army moves again. A horn blows, catapults roll forward, and this time the strategos doesn't play with warning shots, he aims to breach. Thud. The first stone smashes into the northwest wall, blasting dust and brick into the sky. Thud. Crack. The second hits higher, knocking soldiers from their posts. The wall shudders. A deep groan runs through the stones like a dying animal. You fight your way to the battlements just as the Imperial infantry forms up behind their shields, overlapping into a deadly turtle shell. They advance slowly, steadily, arrows bouncing off their iron domes. Brace, the militia captain shouts. But the Empire isn't sending infantry only. Behind the shield wall roll battering rams covered with wet hides to prevent fire, crewed by dozens of soldiers chanting in unison. The moment they reach the wall, everything shifts into chaos. The battering ram slams into the northern gate. Boom! Your teeth rattle. Again, boom! The gate jolts inward. Timber splinters. Men curse as they brace wooden beams against it. From above, Theban defenders drop stones, oil jars, even broken bricks onto the ram teams. It slows them, injures them, but does not stop them. Imperial discipline is a machine. It grinds forward no matter what you throw at it. Then the ladders come. 1, 2, 10. Dozens of them slam against the walls as Imperial soldiers climb like ants swarming a carcass. Swords flash. Shields clash. A guild master beside you drives a spear clean through a climber's neck, then stumbles back, shaking like a leaf. Another ladder goes up. Another soldier climbs. Thebes cuts them down, but exhaustion gnaws at every man on the rampart. And then, without warning, the weaker section of the northern wall gives a crack, splits through the stone, dust shoots upward in a plume, and a section, small but enough, collapses. The Imperial troops cheer. Thebes screams. "Fall back to the Silk Quarter," someone shouts. You rush with the militia as the Imperials flood through the opening. Street fighting explodes instantly, sword against spear, shield against brick. Civilians flee between workshops. Arrow fire rains from roofs as Thebans take desperate high ground. The northern silk workshops are the last line. If they fall, the city falls. Guild workers barricade the main avenue with looms, dye barrels, crates of raw silk. The barricade looks ridiculous, until the first Imperial soldiers slam into it and bounce backward, tangled in ropes and beams. Dyers fling boiling dye into attackers' faces. Weavers stab with sharpened rods. Teenage apprentices hurl bricks from balconies. It's chaos. Brilliant, defiant chaos, but it can't hold forever. You run between defenders, helping drag wounded men behind the barricade. The Imperial troops push harder, reorganizing, setting shields overhead to block objects dropped from windows. Their advance is slow but unstoppable, grinding down the Silk Quarter street by street, and then, just when the barricade begins to crack, a horn sounds behind you, a different horn, a Theban horn. Reinforcements from the city's western district charge into the fray, yelling, slamming into the Imperial flank. The street erupts into pure violence, too close to see clearly, too loud to think. After 20 minutes of brutal fighting, the Imperials fall back, not defeated, just repositioning, regrouping, preparing for the next assault. The Silk Quarter survived. Today. But you can feel the truth washing over the defenders as they slump against broken looms and shattered crates. Thebes cannot withstand another assault like this, not unless Maniax arrives. Not unless something changes. Not unless a miracle appears. Night falls with a frightening silence. Campfires burn outside the walls. Thebes bleeds inside them. The war is here. Thebes is cornered, and the Empire is far from finished. Dawn crawls slowly over Thebes like a wounded animal, dragging orange light across smoke-scarred rooftops and broken walls. The defenders barely move when the sun rises. They're slumped against towers, lying on stairways, or sprawled beside overturned dye vats that still drip streaks of purple and red. You can smell everything burned yesterday. Charred wood, scorched grain, and the sharp, metallic sting of blood. No one says it aloud, but everyone feels it. Thebes is running out of time. The Imperial camp is already stirring. Drums roll in a steady rhythm, not frantic like yesterday, but deliberate, confident. Arrows are being sorted, siege engines repositioned. The Ducas Strategos knows the weaknesses of a tired city, and today he doesn't intend to test the walls. Today he intends to break them. You force yourself to the battlements, stepping over cracked stones still warm from yesterday's fire. The militia captain you fought beside leans heavily against his shield, eyelids twitching from exhaustion. They'll hit the Silk Quarter again, he mutters. They want the wealth, not the rubble. He's right. Thebes' greatest treasure, the Silk District, also makes it the perfect target below. The Silk Quarter looks like a battlefield dressed in rainbow. Vats overturned, curtains half burned, bundles of silk scattered across the ground like spilled treasure. The barricade the workers built yesterday still stands, but barely. Dye barrels are splintered, looms smashed. The wooden beams sag under their own weight. This is where the Empire will strike. By mid-morning, the Imperial forces organize into 3 disciplined columns. Not a wild assault this time, not chaos. No, this is the Ducas family's specialty. Cold, calculated destruction. The first column heads toward the northern breach they opened yesterday. The second aims for the smaller gate near the eastern market. And the third, the strongest, forms directly in front of the Silk Quarter. They're going to crush Thebes from 3 sides. The Strategos lifts his hand, the drums stop. Silence swallows the plain. Then, boom! A massive siege ram slams into the eastern gate, and the entire city jolts as if punched by a god. Boom! Boom! The second hit rips a crack through the wood. The gate bows inward. Screams erupt from the defenders trying to hold it up with beams scavenged from demolished workshops. The northern breach is targeted next. Catapults hurl rocks the size of oxen directly at the damaged section. Stones smash through the temporary wooden scaffolding. Dust clouds rise like smoke. The defenders cough and choke as they know that section will fall soon. Then the worst of it comes. The third column charges the Silk Quarter Imperial engineers push forward a monstrous roofed battering ram, covered in hides soaked overnight to resist burning oil. Behind it march shield bearers whose armour gleams even through the dust, elite troops sent personally by the Ducas family. You rush to the barricade as their footsteps shake the earth. Silk workers clutch weapons that shouldn't be weapons. Dye ladles, knives used for cutting thread, sharpened stakes once meant for drying cloth. Apprentices stand behind them with baskets of stones. An old woman who ran a gold thread workshop holds a pot of boiling dye, her hands trembling but determined. The ram hits the barricade. Crack. Not a full breach, but enough to make everyone flinch. Another hit. Crack thud. Wood splinters fly like arrows. The militia captain beside you grits his teeth. Pour it. Boiling dye splashes over the ram's roof, but the hides hold. The dye runs down, staining the ground red, purple, gold. The attackers laugh. They like seeing Thebes' wealth wasted. The ram smashes the barricade again. This time a chunk collapses inward. Imperial infantry charge through the opening with a roar. Thebes' defenders meet them with a scream of their own. Metal clashes with wood. Dye splatters across armour. Silk threads cling to blood like cobwebs. You stab, duck, stumble back, nearly slip in a puddle of indigo. A silk weaver beside you shatters a clay dye pot against a soldier's head. A guildmaster swings a beam like a club, knocking 2 men off their feet. But the Imperials keep coming, and then a horn sounds from the northern wall. A different horn, a terrified horn. "The breach! They're through the breach!" someone cries. Your stomach drops. Imperial soldiers flood into the city from the north, swarming past rubble and broken houses. They're not heading toward the city centre. They're heading straight toward the Silk Quarter from behind. Thebes is being enveloped. 2 fronts at once. 2 crushing jaws closing on the city's heart. Defenders at the barricade look back and see their families running for shelter, see smoke rising from the north, see the shadows of Imperial helmets growing larger as another wave enters from the breach. Panic ripples like a crack in glass. The guildmistress screams, "Hold the line! Hold!" But her voice can't stop the wave of fear. Still, Thebans fight. A group of militia rush to reinforce the northern flank, but they're too few. An Imperial cavalryman rides straight over a defender, spear flashing. Another soldier kicks down a workshop door and drags out weavers by their hair. You see a boy, no more than 14, throw a brick at an Imperial archer who shoots him in return. The barricade collapses. The northern defence collapses. Thebes collapses. And the Silk Quarter, its treasures, its pride, its beating economic heart, is consumed in violence. Workshops are stormed. Warehouses broken open. Silk bolts stolen or slashed apart. Dye vats overturned in rivers of wasted colour. Imperial soldiers shout triumphantly as they rip down Theban banners. Thebes has lost the northern quarter. Tomorrow the whole city may fall. But even as darkness gathers, even as the defenders retreat deeper into the twisting alleys, one thought pulses through every mind. Maniakes must come now, or Thebes is finished. The city trembles under Imperial boots. You taste smoke. You hear screams. You see the heart of Thebes burning, and night comes down fast, too fast, on a city running out of walls to hide behind. Night has barely fallen when Thebes realizes the awful truth. The Empire isn't here to intimidate them anymore. It's here to erase them. The Silk Quarter, heart of the city's wealth, pride, and power, lies half broken behind you. Dye splattered across cobblestones like blood. Smoke rises from shattered workshops. The smell of scorched mulberry leaves and burnt wood floats through the streets. You stand with a knot of exhausted defenders in a narrow alley, ears ringing from the clash of metal. Thebes is still fighting, but it's no longer fighting to win. It's fighting to survive the night, and the Empire knows it. Before dawn, the Ducas Strategos orders a new wave of attacks. Not frontal assaults, not siege craft. Now he sends fire. Arrows streak overhead, flaming like comets. They arc across the sky, trailing sparks, and slam into rooftops that have already been weakened by 2 days of war. Dry beams catch instantly. Whole homes ignite in minutes. You hear screams from the southern districts as flames spread across balconies. Racing along wooden walkways strung between homes, families flee with whatever they can carry. A woman tries to lift her loom. A boy drags a crate of silk, both abandoned when soldiers rush in behind them. This is no longer a siege. It's a purge. The Strategos wants to make an example of Thebes, one so brutal that no other province will dare follow Maniacs. Before long, the fire leaps toward the silk warehouses, the largest, richest structures in the city. Thick stone walls slow the flames, but the wooden doors buckle and burst into roaring orange. You watch in horror as decades of stored silk, hundreds of chests of fabric, ignite like dry leaves. The smoke rises in vivid colours: purple, gold, crimson, a rainbow funeral pyre. Thebes' wealth dissolving into the sky. Screams echo from a nearby street as imperial soldiers push deeper into the city. These aren't the elite troops from yesterday. These are the irregulars, the ones who follow behind victorious armies to plunder whatever remains, and they have found Thebes' richest district. You race with militia toward the commotion. Shadows flicker across the walls as torches swing wildly. Someone kicks open a silk merchant's door. Women clutching children run out, chased by soldiers who rip gold-threaded belts from their waists. Two defenders crash into the imperial looters. Steel clashes, screams ring. You join them, adrenaline cutting through exhaustion. Each movement feels heavy, like fighting underwater, but fear drives you forward. A soldier swings at you. You block with a cracked shield. A loom worker leaps onto his back with a dye ladle raised like a warhammer. The soldier falls, but for every looter you drive away, 3 more spill in through the northern breach. Thebes is drowning, and there aren't enough hands to keep it afloat. The militia captain appears beside you, face smeared with soot. "We can't hold the quarter," he says. "Fall back to the agora." The order spreads down the line, not shouted, but gasped, whispered, repeated with trembling urgency. Defenders peel away from the silk district, dragging wounded comrades, stumbling over broken beams and torn silk. As you retreat, you see a sight that haunts you. A child kneels beside a dye vat, clutching a bolt of gold-threaded fabric as flames close in. You scoop him up and run. The bolt falls into a puddle of purple dye, sinking like a banner into a grave. When you reach the agora, the city's defenders regroup under the massive shade of the central basilica fire's glow across the northern half of Thebes. The silk quarter, the prize everyone fought over, is half gone. Guildmasters gather in a circle, their faces ash-grey and unreadable. Not grief, not shock, just calculation. They know what comes next. "The Emperor will take everything," one murmurs. "The silk trade, the wealth, our workers. Even if Maniax arrives tomorrow, the city is already crippled." Another replies, "If he doesn't arrive tomorrow, the city is dead." Thebes is now a ruin defended by ghosts. The imperial army advances street by street, burning, looting, dragging prisoners from homes. The screams drift across the city like a broken hymn. You look north. Still no sign of Maniaces. Still no dust cloud on the horizon. Still no salvation. But the defenders don't give up. Not yet. They form a new line across the central avenues. They brace wagons, overturned market stalls, even broken statues taken from the forums. The Strategos marches slowly now. Carefully, he knows he has won. He simply wants to savour the moment. As midnight nears, embers float through the air like dying fireflies. The moon is a dull smear behind smoke. Children sleep curled against pillars. Priests pace with candles, blessing whoever asks. You look out across the ruined silk quarter, and you see something terrifying. The imperial troops are preparing for one final push, a push to the heart, to the agora, to the end. Thebes will not survive another sunrise, not unless Maniax finally appears, and the horizon, still empty. You don't sleep. No one in Thebes really does. You just drift in and out of half-consciousness on the flagstones of the agora. Armour still on, shield still propped against your knee, ears tuned to the sounds of a city that won't stop groaning. Crackling fire, distant shouting, the occasional crash of a collapsing roof. At some point before dawn, the bells of the basilica ring once, just once, and then fall silent. No prayer service this morning, no chanting. Even the clergy are saving their breath. You drag yourself back to the walls as pale grey light creeps over the horizon. The northern quarter is a blackened husk. The silk district, yesterday's battlefield, is now a jagged scar of collapsed workshops and smouldering beams. Smoke hangs low over the streets, clinging to your lungs. The Imperial camp, on the other hand, looks neat, calm, methodical. You can see their tents lined in disciplined rows, banners barely fluttering in the still air. No rush, no panic. Just the quiet confidence of men who know time is on their side. The militia captain beside you mutters, "They'll finish it today." You know he's right. Still, Thebes refuses to lay down. Men take their places on the walls again, fewer than yesterday, more bandaged, more hollow-eyed, but still their guildmasters grip spears with blistered hands. A few silk workers, faces streaked with soot and dye, stand barefoot on the ramparts, determined to defend what little remains. You all look north, as you've done every day, searching for the same thing: dust banners, any sign of maniacs, and finally you see it. Far beyond the Imperial camp, beyond the fields and low hills, a faint haze of movement rises into the sky. At first you think it's a trick of the light. Then the haze thickens. You see glints, sunlight bouncing off armour, the faint suggestion of marching ranks. Someone on the wall gasps, "Look! Riders!" The word spreads like lightning. "Maniacs! His army is here. God has not abandoned us." For a moment the city feels alive again. Men stand straighter. Women at the wells pause mid-bucket, squinting toward the horizon. Even the priests step onto the church steps, craning their necks. Down in the Imperial camp the Strategos notices too. You can almost sense the change in him even from this distance. He stiffens. Signals messengers race between tents. Standards shift. The besiegers are about to become the besieged. You feel it. The energy of a story turning. The kind of turnaround every bedtime history video loves. Just when all seems lost, the hero arrives in the nick of time. Except, this isn't a story, and Byzantium isn't nice. The Imperial camp doesn't panic, it doesn't scatter. It simply reforms, pivoting like a well-trained animal to face this new threat from the north, while still hemming Thebes in from the south. Two fronts, two enemies, same calm cruelty. The riders grow clearer now, advanced scouts from Maniaki's army, their banners streaming. Behind them you can see the dark ribbon of infantry and cavalry columns, still distant but unmistakable. The defenders around you begin to cheer, voices hoarse but eager. One man slams his shield with his spear, starting a rhythm that spreads along the wall. "For Maniakes," someone shouts. "For Thebes!" For revenge. It feels good, dangerous, but good. You watch as Maniaki's vanguard stops on a ridge, banners snapping in the breeze. The general himself isn't visible from this distance, but you don't need to see him to feel his presence. His reputation has walked ahead of him for years. Ruthless, brilliant, terrifyingly efficient. He's the kind of man who can break an imperial army in open battle. He's the kind of man Thebes gambled everything on. But as the minutes turn into an hour, something feels off. You expect Maniacs to charge, to descend like a hammer onto the imperial flank. Instead, his forces hold. They maneuver. Lines shift. Banners reposition. You can see dust swirling as small units move out and back, scouting, testing. On the walls, excitement turns into confusion. What is he waiting for? Why doesn't he attack? Down below, the Ducas Strategos plays his own quiet game. His troops begin forming deeper ranks on the northern side, cavalry fanning out to the edges like hooked claws. He's been waiting for this too. For Maniacs to step into the open civil wars aren't just about battlefield skill, they're about timing, betrayal, money, morale. Maniacs may be the better general, but the Ducas faction is better at poisoning the air around him. By mid-morning, the two armies face each other across the plain. Imperial banners flutter. Maniaki's standards bristle on the ridge. You can feel the tension crackling between them, even from behind Thebes' battered walls. This is it, you think. This is the battle that decides if Thebes lives, and then the rumour hits. It starts as a murmur along the ramparts, a whisper from a scout who overheard another messenger. Something's wrong in Maniaki's camp. What do you mean wrong? His men. They say the Western mercenaries are arguing with his officers. Within minutes the story mutates. Maniakis has quarrelled with the lieutenant. Maniakes has struck a subordinate. Maniakes has been cursed by a priest. Finally, a rider, one of Thebes' own scouts, manages to slip back into the city through a half-hidden postern gate. He's pale, wide-eyed, barely able to dismount. The armies have clashed, he pants. Maniacs led the charge. He broke their centre. A cheer explodes around you. And then he swallows. And then he fell. A spear or an arrow. They say he was struck down in the middle of the fighting. Silence. Real silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. He... What? Someone stammers. The scout's voice cracks. George Maniacs is dead. You feel it like a physical blow. The air leaves your lungs. The walls seem to tilt. On the plain you can see the shape of it now. Maniac's lines, once tight and menacing, are fraying. Dust swirls where units have started to pull back, some in order, others in panic. The Imperial formation, momentarily shaken, ripples, then steadies, then advances. Without their iron-willed general at the front, Maniakes' troops are just men, tired, hungry, frightened men who suddenly realize they've followed a rebel whose protection died with him. You hear someone whisper behind you, then we're finished. Inside Thebes, hope doesn't shatter all at once, it crumbles. The militia captain sinks down onto a merlon staring blankly. The guildmistress, who once spoke so confidently about backing Maniacs, covers her face with both hands. A priest drops the icon he was clutching. It cracks on the stone. Thebes had made a bet. Wealth, loyalty, blood. And the man they wagered on just died somewhere in the dust beyond their sight. The Ducas Strategos doesn't waste the moment. His banners surge forward. Imperial cavalry crashes into the remnants of Maniakes' army, scattering them. Some flee north. Others surrender. A few fight to the death, swallowed up by the Imperial line. By midday the rebel army's broken. The ridge that once held Maniakes' standard is empty. And suddenly, Thebes is alone. The Imperial forces turn back toward the city with renewed purpose. No more hesitation, no more caution. Their job is clear now. Punish the province that dared to support a traitor. On the walls the last embers of defiance flicker, but there's nothing to feed them. No relief, no reinforcements, no legend riding in to save the day. Just Thebes, burning, bleeding, out of choices. You grip the stone in front of you as the truth settles in your bones. The fall of Thebes isn't coming, it's already begun. The moment the rumour became truth, Maniacs is dead. Thebes changed. Not with shouts or chaos or one dramatic collapse, but with a slow, suffocating exhale. The kind a dying man makes when he realizes there is no point fighting the air anymore. You feel it on the walls, you feel it in the streets, you feel it in your bones. Thebes is no longer holding out for victory, it's holding out for dignity, for whatever scraps of survival remain. By early afternoon, the Imperial army reforms before the city like a dark tide preparing to swallow the shore. Their banners flap lazily in the heated wind. Their lines stand straight and confident, the way soldiers stand when they know the enemy's broken before a single sword is raised. The Ducas Strategos rides forward, cold, stiff, unhurried, and addresses the city one last time. People of Thebes, lay down your arms. Surrender now. The Emperor may yet show mercy. Mercy. A word as hollow as the burned-out shells of the workshops behind you. The crowd on the ramparts doesn't bother shouting back this time, they just watch in heavy silence. The militia captain beside you whispers, "If we surrender, they'll still punish us. If we fight, they'll kill us." You don't respond. There is no right answer, just choices with different kinds of misery attached. The guildmasters gather in the agora to debate. Their once brilliant robes are smeared with smoke and ash. They look nothing like the proud silk barons who argued politics a week ago. Now they look like survivors of a storm trying to decide which direction the next wave will hit from. "We must surrender," one says with a dead voice. "They'll slaughter us," another replies. "They'll slaughter us either way." "We cannot abandon the city." There is no city left to abandon. You walk through the ruined silk quarter while the council debates, past charred beams, broken looms, dye vats cracked open like eggshells. Walking here feels like stepping on the memory of wealth, and somewhere in the ruins lies the truth. Thebes did not fall because it supported a rebel. It fell because it gambled everything on a man whose death erased its future. Suddenly horns blare from the southern walls. Sharp, desperate blast after blast, you run. Everyone runs. When you reach the ramparts, you freeze. The Imperial army is advancing, not slowly, not hesitantly, but in a tight formation that screams finality. Shields lock into a gleaming wall. Archers raise bows in a single fluid motion. Siege engineers roll forward with a brand new battering ram, larger, heavier, wrapped in fresh wet hides. Thebes has minutes. The militia captain shouts, "Positions, positions, damn you!" But half the men stagger, wounded or too exhausted to lift their shields. A first volley of Imperial arrows whistles through the air. You duck, someone beside you falls. More volleys follow, the kind meant not to kill but to suppress, to keep heads down while the ram advances. Then boom! The new ram hits the southern gate. The shock trembles through every stone. Boom! A hinge shears off. Boom! The gate bows inward like a dying lung. The defenders shout, but their voices are drowned out by the Imperial war chant growing louder outside, and then crash! The gate explodes inward. Iron shards and splinters fly like daggers. Thebes screams. The Imperial army roars. Soldiers storm the breach in a brutal wave. Shields up, swords thrusting. The defenders fold backward, tripping, stumbling, trying to form a line but failing as panic surges through them. You're swept sideways by the crush of retreating men. The smell of oil and sweat and fear fills your nose. The strategos rides in behind his troops, eyes scanning for resistance. He sees none. Just broken defenders, broken streets, a broken city. Within minutes, Imperial troops pour into the agora. You see guildmasters seized, priests dragged from the basilica, silk workers forced to kneel. Militia cut down if they resist, or even hesitate. It's not a battle, it's an execution of a city. The guildmistress who defended the silk quarter yesterday is pinned against a column. The militia captain is struck from behind and falls without rising. A father shields his son with his cloak until soldiers pry them apart. You try to help someone, anyone, but a blow slams against your shoulder, sending you sprawling into a pile of broken marble. Dust fills your lungs, your ears ring. You watch through blurred vision as Imperial banners replace Theban ones, as soldiers fan out through the streets, kicking down doors and corralling survivors. The fall is total. And yet, it is not chaos. It is methodical, punitive, planned. The strategos raises his arm. Secure the workshops, burn anything that cannot be moved. Bring the guild leaders to me, execute the ringleaders. A soldier adds, and the silk? Take the finest workers, the strategos says without even turning, send them to Constantinople. Just like that, the beating heart of Thebes becomes imperial property. Thebes gambled its future. Maniacs died, and the empire never forgives. As soldiers drag prisoners past you, a child cries out for his mother. A woman clutches a scorched spindle. A priest clings to a cracked icon. You push yourself upright, trembling. You look around at the broken city you've followed from its pride to its ruin, and you understand more clearly than ever. Cities don't fall in a day. They fall in the moment hope dies. Maniacus' death killed Thebes long before the soldiers walked through the gate. Thebes does not scream anymore. That was yesterday. Today, it whimpers low, broken sounds drifting through alleys filled with ash and defeat. The Imperial army no longer storms the streets, they occupy them. Calmly, efficiently, terrifyingly. You walk through the city like a ghost among ruins. Every familiar landmark now stands twisted. The shattered gates, the blackened silk quarter, the basilica whose doors hang open like a mouth-frozen mid-prayer Thebes has fallen, and the conquerors treat its bones with the cold professionalism of men cleaning a battlefield rather than celebrating victory. Imperial soldiers march in tidy squares through neighborhoods that once pulsed with trade. They drag ropes of prisoners, silk workers, guildmasters, militia captains, toward the governor's residence, now seized as the strategos headquarters. Each prisoner has a wooden tag around his or her neck, marked with a single Greek letter, L for loyal, R for rebel. You don't need to guess what the R means. Executions begin by mid-morning. A platform is erected in the agora, right where the market stalls once stood, the same place where Theban merchants used to brag about their profits, the same stones where you once heard arguments about maniacs, silk and imperial taxes. Now it is a stage for punishment. One by one, the ringleaders are dragged forward. Guildmasters, militia officers, anyone with a reputation for speaking too loudly or too confidently during the days of defiance. Some protest, some plead, most remain still, defeated long before they reach the platform. The strategos watches with a blank expression, giving a small nod each time the sword rises. He is not cruel, he is not angry, he is simply thorough. When the executions end, Thebes stands silent, soaked in a kind of numb horror. But the empire isn't finished, not even close. By afternoon, the confiscation teams move through the city, imperial scribes with scrolls accompanied by soldiers. They enter homes, businesses, workshops, writing down every item of value. Looms, bolts of fabric, gold thread spindles, crates of silkworm eggs, dyeing vats, grain stores, even household jewellery. Nothing is spared. Nothing is private. Nothing remains Theban. The scribe marks each item with a symbol. Ktema to Vasileos, property of the emperor. You follow one such team into a ruined workshop. The place still smells of dye and smoke. Two workers stand stiffly against the wall as soldiers carry looms out piece by piece. A young apprentice tries to hide a spindle of raw silk under her apron. The scribe catches her immediately. "No theft," he says calmly. "It's my mother's," she whispers. "It belongs to the emperor now." She lets it go. Her face breaks in a way that will stay with you for years. Outside, wagons wait, dozens of them, already piled high with Theban silk. Soldiers load the finest spinners and weavers onto separate carts. These aren't prisoners. They're resources. They will be sent to Constantinople to enrich the capital's own workshops. Families scream and beg as their sons and daughters are taken. A mother clings to her daughter's arm until a soldier pries her fingers loose. Thebes, once the empire's silk heart, is being harvested, thread by thread, worker by worker. By sunset, the strategos issues a proclamation. All guild privileges revoked, all silk production under imperial control, all taxes doubled for the next 5 years, all former rebel districts placed under martial law. Thebaeans gather in the agora to hear it. Not one voice rises in protest. Thebes has no air left for shouting. But beneath the silent obedience, you feel another emotion simmering. Not defiance, not hope, but a hollow, exhausted grief. Thebes gambled everything on a rebel who died before reaching them. Thebes fought for its wealth, its pride, its autonomy, and lost all three. And now, under the shadow of imperial banners, the city begins its slow transformation from vibrant province to punished vassal. You walk through the twilight streets, past burned-out homes and families huddled in doorways. A little boy sits on the steps of a ruined workshop, turning a scrap of scorched silk over and over in his small hands, as if trying to remember what it once meant. Above you, on the citadel, the imperial flag flaps listlessly in the evening wind. Thebes has fallen, but Byzantium is not done reshaping its corpse. Tomorrow the city will wake to a new reality, one built from fear, obedience, and the ashes of what it used to be. By the next morning, Thebes feels like a different city entirely, hollowed out, stunned, shrunken. Even the sunlight seems muted, filtering weakly through a haze of soot that clings to the air. Thebes used to wake with the sound of looms, market-haggling temple bells. Today, it wakes to the tramp of imperial boots. You walk through the streets with the slow, heavy steps of someone moving through the ruins of a memory. Everywhere you look, you see remnants of what Thebes once was. A broken loom half buried in ash, a spool of gold thread tangled around a shattered window frame, silk scraps drifting through the alleys like mournful flags. Thebes was rich. Now it is stripped, and the empire has only just begun its punishment. At the eastern gate, imperial scribes sit at tables piled with scrolls. Citizens line up. families, merchants, craftsmen, and one by one they're registered, questioned, reclassified. The Empire wants to know exactly who lived here, what they owned, who they knew, and how loyal they are. A young man in front of you steps up nervously. "What was your role?" the scribe asks. "A dyer," he says. "With whom did you work?" "My uncle." "Did your uncle support maniaches?" The young man's voice cracks. I don't know." The scribe doesn't look up as he writes a mark beside the boy's name. It isn't an L for loyal. It isn't an R for rebel. It's worse. S for suspect. Suspects lose property. Suspects lose work. Suspects often disappear in the night. The line grows quieter. People whisper less. Parents grip their children's hands tighter. As you drift toward the agora, you hear the hammering of Imperial engineers. They're dismantling the last barricades, repairing the southern gate, and building a temporary fort inside the city, a fortress within a fortress. The message is clear. Thebes is no longer trusted to defend itself. The Empire will defend Thebes from Thebans. The Strategos, who now rules the city more absolutely than any emperor, arrives at the agora flanked by guards. He mounts the platform, the same one used for executions the day before, and reads out his next set of decrees. Every word feels like a nail driven deeper into Thebes' ribs. All silk production shall be overseen by imperial agents. All looms must be surrendered for inspection. Any worker attempting to hide tools or materials will be flogged. 300 silk workers will be relocated to Constantinople immediately. 5 guild leaders will be held as hostages until order is restored. And finally, 6. All taxes owed during the rebellion shall be doubled. The crowd doesn't cry out. They just lower their heads. Thebes has nothing left to protest with. You turn toward the basilica to find something even more heartbreaking. A long, slow procession of silk workers, women, children, elderly masters, are being herded toward the gates. Each is allowed one bag, one bundle, one tearful goodbye. Among them walks a weaver you fought beside during the siege. Her hands still bear fresh cuts from gripping a spear, her robe still stained with ash. She walks with her daughters, each carrying a spool of raw silk, their entire world reduced to 3 small bundles. She sees you, offers a wan smile. "Tell them we resisted," she whispers. "Tell someone." She doesn't say who, because she knows no one outside this fallen city will care. History rarely cares about the defeated. As the column of workers disappears through the ruined gate, a cold finality settles over Thebes. The Empire has not just taken its wealth, it has taken its future. By midday, soldiers begin tearing down parts of the Silk Quarter deemed too rebellious. Entire blocks are condemned, homes smashed, workshops flattened. A grand warehouse with murals of Theban prosperity is demolished stone by stone, as if erasing the memory of independence itself. Children watch silently from doorways. Old men stand with fists clenched, powerless. The city smells of dust and regret. You wander toward the upper terrace that overlooks the city. From there, you see it all. The blackened rooftops, the smoke still rising from yesterday's fires, the sprawling imperial camp now feeding off Thebes like a leech. In that moment, you realize something profound. Thebes didn't fall in battle. It fell in consequence. The moment it chose Maniacs, its fate was sealed. The moment Maniacs died, Thebes died with him. This punishment, this reshaping, this harvesting of its people and wealth, isn't an accident. It's the Empire's way of warning every city watching from afar. Do not think you are equal. Do not think you are safe. Do not think you may choose your own destiny. By late afternoon, Thebes is eerily quiet. The last fires crackle. Imperial soldiers patrol with bored indifference. Thebes' defenders, those not executed or taken, sit in doorways staring into nothing. You walk past a cracked fountain where children once played, past a burnt-out stall where merchants once boasted of their profits, past the ruins of workshops where silk once shimmered like captured fire. The city that once danced with colour is now painted in ash. As the sun dips, the Strategos gives one final order for the day. Burn any remaining rebel property, and the flames rise again, not as battle, not as desperation, but as bureaucracy. Thebes endures it silently. Thebes has no tears left. Thebes has no voice. And yet, beneath the silence, something faint but persistent lingers. Not hope, not defiance. Something deeper. Memory. The empire can take silk, gold, property, workers, but it cannot take the memory of what Thebes once was. And that memory, fragile and buried under smoke, will someday shape another rebellion, another city, another story. For now, though, Thebes mourns, and you mourn with it. The sun rises slowly on Thebes after the third day of occupation, a pale, washed-out light that does little to warm the cold stone streets. Smoke still drifts upward in lazy ribbons from the ruins of the Silk Quarter. The fountains run muddy from ash. The city that once hummed with the rhythm of looms and markets now breathes in shallow, uneven gasps. You walk through the central avenue, stepping over charred beams, shattered tiles, and scraps of silk that flutter weakly in the morning breeze. Thebes is quieter today, not because things are better, but because the people have reached the point beyond screaming. They move like shadows, eyes lowered, breaths slow, as if trying not to disturb whatever fragile peace remains. The imperial soldiers, on the other hand, move with crisp precision. They patrol the streets in pairs, their armour polished, their steps in perfect sync. Their presence is constant, at the gates, at the wells, at the market square that no longer sells anything. Their disciplined calm feels like a blade held gently at the city's throat. You pause beneath the tall columns of the basilica. The doors are wide open, but inside the sanctuary is nearly empty. A priest with soot in his beard lights a handful of candles at the altar. Their glow flickers across his tired face. He looks at you, nods once, then returns to his work, tending to something sacred in a city that no longer believes in miracles. Outside, the imperial scribes begin another round of registrations. Families queue silently, each clutching scrolls or scraps of evidence proving who they are, what they own, and why they shouldn't be punished further. A woman in a torn purple shawl steps forward with twin daughters at her side. The scribe doesn't look up as he stamps her name under the tax-doubled column. She accepts it with the resignation of someone who has already lost more than money. You wander toward the upper terrace that overlooks the northern side of the city. From here, you can see the rolling fields, the distant hills, and the crumbled breach where Maniaki's relief was supposed to arrive. The plain looks peaceful now. Green, calm, washed clean by morning light. It's almost cruel. Because you remember how it looked days earlier, filled with smoke and battle cries, with hope rising when Maniaki's banners appeared on the ridge, hope that died the moment he fell. Thebes didn't just lose a general, it lost the future it bet on. And the empire has been collecting the debt ever since. As you stare out over the countryside, children wander past you, kicking stones and sticks as if trying to play some semblance of the games they once knew. Their laughter is hesitant, thin, but real. It cuts through the silence like a small stubborn flame refusing to go out. Down below, the strategos rides through the streets again, inspecting the city with the air of a man checking off tasks on a ledger. His guards flank him, but there is no fear, only order. He issues new orders for additional materials to be shipped to Constantinople. Silkworm eggs, spindles, dyes, pigments. Thebes' lifeblood is being drained quietly, efficiently, like wine from a cracked amphora. A group of artisans, those selected to remain, stand before him, trying to argue that without tools they cannot meet the emperor's quotas. He listens, nods, then responds with a soft, chilling clarity. You will make do, or you will be replaced. His tone carries no anger. It doesn't need any. You step away, unable to watch more. As the day fades into evening, the city gathers near the basilica. Not by order, but by instinct, families cluster together. Elders murmur prayers. A few survivors from the Silk Guild sit in a circle, passing around the one unburned loom they managed to hide during the chaos, its legs scorched, threads tangled, but still intact. One of them touches it gently, like greeting an old friend. Thebes may have been stripped, punished, humiliated, but the memory of what it was still burns. You find yourself drifting again toward the northern walls. The sky turns gold, then pink, then a deep, velvety blue. Night spreads across the plain like a soft blanket. Torches flicker atop the imperial watchtowers. A breeze stirs the scorched earth, carrying the scent of olive groves and the faint, lingering bitterness of smoke. Thebes breathes, hurting, humbled, but breathing. And as you sit on the stones and let the stillness settle into your bones, you realize something gentle beneath the devastation, something almost comforting. Cities fall, empires punish. History grinds its gears, but people heal, slowly, stubbornly, quietly. Where today there is ash, next year there will be markets. Where there is ruin, children will play. Where the silk quarter burned, workers will someday rebuild their looms. Thebes will never be the same, but it will survive. Because survival is what cities do when empires forget their names. The night grows softer. The stars blink into existence overhead, small, patient, eternal. A warm wind brushes your cheek. Somewhere below, a woman hums a lullaby. A dog trots lazily through the alley. Thebes, broken but breathing, is settling into a new rhythm. Not the vibrant heartbeat it once had, but the slow, steady pulse of endurance. You close your eyes. Let the quiet wrap around you. Let the story of Thebes drift into a gentle whisper, and when the moon rises high above the ruins, you feel something like peace, fragile, trembling, but real. Thebes has fallen, but tonight, Thebes rests. Night settles softly over Thebes, wrapping the ruined city in a hush that feels almost protective. The worst of the smoke has drifted away, leaving only a faint scent of ash mingled with the sweetness of olive trees on the hillsides. The marble stones beneath your feet are warm from the day's sun, still holding on to a gentle heat that seeps through your tired bones. You walk slowly now, not as a defender, not as a witness to war, but simply as someone sharing space with the city trying to breathe again. The streets are quiet, soft footsteps, a low whisper, the flutter of a curtain in a broken window. Lanterns glow faintly from a handful of doorways, casting little pools of gold on the ground. In the distance, a lone loom taps once, then again, hesitant, like a heartbeat learning its rhythm. Someone is weaving. Someone is trying to remember what normal felt like. The sound is small, but it fills the night with something warmer than hope, persistence. Thebes has lost much, its wealth, its power, its pride. But it still has people. People who will wake tomorrow and sweep ash from their thresholds, stack stones back into walls, relight fires, boil dye, restart work. They will rebuild not because anyone commands them to, but because life leans naturally toward healing. You pause on the terrace overlooking the plain. The fields glow silver under the moon, soft and peaceful, as if the land itself is promising rest. Above you, stars blink slowly into the sky. Steady, patient, untouched by the storms of men breathe with the city. Long, slow inhales, even slower exhales. Let the tension slip from your shoulders. Let the story quiet itself. Let Thebes drift into memory tonight. Everything is still. Everything is safe enough. Everything is gently fading into calm. Rest now, traveller. Thebes will greet the morning, and so will you. Good night, sweet dreams.